Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about what awaits you in the month of July. Now, first things first, let me warn you from the very beginning that July is gonna be the month that changes everything this year. So it's gonna be filled with the wild cards, black swans, surprises, things happening out of nowhere, like things completely out of our area of, prediction and forecast. So in July, we've got a bunch of eclipses. We've got 2 eclipses happening. We've also got Mercury going in retrograde. So it is a packed month. Brace yourselves, catch your breath, because July is gonna sweep us off our feet. In a good way, but also in a challenging way, because we as humans don't necessarily deal that well with changes, unless they were expected and unless they're like pleasant surprises. So before we begin, let me tell you this. I 100% advise you, and I know for those of you who have been following me for a while, I always say this. I actually laughed at myself when I posted the June horoscopes, because I always mention this, and someone in the comments said, yeah, we know this, thanks mom, but I'm gonna mention it regardless. Please listen to your sun sign horoscope and also your rising sign horoscope, because you might find the rising sign to be a bit more accurate from a day-to-day point of view. Now, if you don't know what your rising sign is, I've left a link in the description box down below for you to generate your natal chart online for free. There's actually like a ton of online natal chart generators. All you need to do is put in your date, time, and place of birth, and you're gonna see what your natal chart looks like, and you're also gonna find out what your rising sign is. And last but not least, if you are interested in a personalized horoscope that is completely like down to the very like dotting the I's and crossing the T's, I think that's what they're called. If you're looking for a horoscope that is completely personalized to you and that is accurate to you and you only based on your natal chart, that is a service that I offer, so feel free to get in touch with me. So without further ado, let us begin with Aries. Aries, my lovely Aries. Brace yourselves. I mean, I've said this to everyone, but I'm gonna say it again. Brace yourselves, because July is going to change things dramatically for you. Now, between the 9th and, let me take a quick look, and the 30th of July, my lovely Aries, we've got Mercury in retrograde in Leo. So actually, let me break it down for you. You've got Mercury in retrograde between the 9th of July and the 19th of July in Leo, and then it moves on to Cancer. We also have a new moon solar eclipse on the 2nd of July in Cancer. We've got a full moon lunar eclipse on the 16th of July in Capricorn. On the 23rd of July, the Sun enters Leo, and on the 28th of July, Venus enters Leo as well. Now, the most challenging part of July is going to be the first 3 weeks. The month kicks off with a beautiful new moon solar eclipse. I say beautiful, but it can be very problematic in your 4th house of home and family and roots and ancestors, but on a more mundane level, I would say. 10 days before the 2nd of July and 10 days after the 2nd of July, you might receive news that completely throw you off your feet. There is very likely going to be a shift in your family life. You might move to a new place. You might you might hear a news about a family member that change the way you can let's say, live your life for the next 6 months. It's a good time to move, or you might be forced to move out of your home. There are big shifts happening. You might hear news of, if you're a male, your partner expecting a baby. If you're a female, you yourself, you might find out that you are pregnant. I say it's also a month July in itself, but around the 2nd of July, you might hear news that basically have to do with you putting your career on a lower priority than your family. You might have a family member that actually requires you to look after them, or that requires you to like travel for them or spend more time with them, and it's not something that was planned in any shape or form. And yes, you might be a little bit taken aback by the fact that your career and your professional life are not gonna be center stage anymore. It's also very possible that you decide, it might very well be that you decide to make a career move because of a big change happening in your family life. Like I said, maybe you want to move closer to home. Maybe you're changing home and you can no longer go to the job, to the workplace that you've had for a while now because maybe it's too far away from home, or maybe the schedule does not allow you to spend as much time as home as you would want to. Or maybe you're going to hear news about the fact that, I don't know, maybe you're working a lot from home and you're no longer going to be allowed to do that. So there are big shifts happening, and the career versus home axis is very activated. We've got this opposition happening between the sun and the moon conjunct at the new moon on the 2nd of July, and Saturn in your house of career. It seems like somehow a person in authority, could be your boss, it could be someone like really high up, is not necessarily on your side and is asking you to make compromises or to make sacrifices when it comes to spending time with your family or your family life. In any case, we've got a big shift here. The new moon usually brings a new beginning with it. It usually brings about circumstances. The solar eclipse, the new moon solar eclipse, like the one that we're having on the 2nd of July, usually brings in new circumstances and points us towards a new beginning, a new phase in our life. Let me know how it goes for you, Aries. Moving on to the 16th of July, that's when we've got a full moon eclipse happening in Capricorn. This is an eclipse happening in your 10th house of career, profession, professional status, and public life. This full moon eclipse and full moon eclipses in general are indicative of endings. It's an ending of a phase. It's the ending of a chapter. You might have someone exiting your professional life. You might have a boss, I don't know, resigning. You might decide to resign yourself. You might decide to like close a chapter work related. It's not gonna be easy. However, around this time, you've actually got some pretty neat support, some pretty good support, from what I can tell. Someone's got your back. Someone like some sort of like guardian angel has got your back and is looking after you from the background. It might feel like something happens out of the blue, and yes, you're forced to make like a decision related to your career that you're not necessarily comfortable with, but it also feels like the right thing to do spiritually, from a mental health point of view. So my advice is do make that move. It can be quite a conflictual time. It can be a time filled with contradictions. It can be a very frustrating time, a time filled with restrictions and boundaries. Maybe your exit from your workplace is not going to be as smooth and as seamless as you want it to be. It's also very possible that your boss is not just going to accept your resignation, or is not going to accept the new conditions that you want to impose upon them. And a tug of war can come about. Now, for the entire month of July, I say from the 9th of July, but like my advice is not to make any sort of moves from the very beginning of July till the very end. We've got Mercury in retrograde in your house of home and family, in Cancer. Well, in Leo and then in Cancer. To start with, it might feel like Well, for the first half of the month till the 19th of July, you might find yourself thinking a lot about maybe past loves or past romantic relationships. You might also, if you've got children, you might also find that you want to spend a lot more time with them, or that they require your attention a lot more. You might hear from ex-lovers also till the 19th of July. Now, after that, the focus moves on to your family and family home. It's a good time from the 19th of July till the end of July to fix things in the house, to repair things, to renovate. If there is one piece of advice that I can give to you, do not sign any sort of papers, home-related, sales-related, especially home related. So if you want to sell your house, be very, very careful what it is that you sign, because you might have to go over and over the same contract again and again. During Mercury retrograde, there are usually mistakes made in communication, in documents. So keep that on your mind. Now, from the 23rd of July onwards till the end of the month, and like till half of August, and then from the 28th of July, you are receiving the beautiful beams of the Sun and Venus moving into your 5th house of romantic relationships, true love, a pleasure. It's a great time to go away. It's a great time to go out and meet someone new. It's a great time, if you are coupled up, to spend more time with your lover. And if you've got children, let your hair down and allow yourself to enjoy playtime with them. So that, my lovely Aries, is your month of July. Now let us move on to Taurus. What's happening in Taurus? Oh my days, Taurians, you are in for a rocky road. First and foremost, we've got Mercury retrograding in Cancer in your, we've got Mercury retrograding to start with from the 9th of July till the 30th in your 4th house of home and family. So this is a good time to fix things around the house. It's a good time to take care of those, like, I don't know, chores or little like renovations, repairs that needed to be done and that you've been postponing for ages. So you've got the support of Mercury retrograde till the 19th of July. It is very possible that things might break down in the house for you, my dear Taurus, till the 19th of July, especially if you've been postponing fixing them, or things that you thought were like solved and like ready to roll. They might come your way once again. So the focus is going to be very much on your house up until then. Now, after the 19th of July till the end of the month, my dear Taurus, you've got 2 weeks, I'd say, of misunderstandings ahead of you, of misunderstood communications, of emails lost in the spam box, of mail that does not reach its destination, of packages that might be late or might never reach their destination. So from the 19th of July till the end of the month, be very, very careful what you say and who you say it to. Double, triple check your emails. Make sure that that important email that you had to send actually left your outbox or your spam box. Well, not your spam box, your outbox or your inbox. And triple check with like the finest combed tooth comb. I'm making up words here as we go. Double, triple check that everything that you write, everything that you sign, everything that is related to communication and documents is devoid of mistakes. And even then, you might find that you've misread the fine print. You might find that someone has misread the fine print. So it's an interesting time that you've got ahead of you, communications-wise and house-wise, in July. Now, on the 2nd of July, we've got an eclipse, a solar eclipse, a new moon solar eclipse in your 3rd house of learning, of siblings, of communication, of short distance travel. Around the 2nd of July, you might find that you have to be on the road for quite a while, and you have like quite a few short trips to make that are not necessarily something that you've planned, and they're actually a bit of a pain in the ass, but you have to like go about them anyway. Around the 2nd of July, you might also find out some unnerving piece of news from a sibling or from a cousin, and it's gonna be a little bit on the jarring side. You might also have some sort of like communicational breakdown with someone that is very close to you, possibly a sibling, but also possibly someone in your community, someone quite close to you. Your message might have failed to reach its destination, or you might find that you have like communication differences or mentality differences with someone that are impossible for you to get over. So that's happening around the 2nd of July, 10 days before, 10 days after, my dear Taurus. Then on the 16th of July, we've got an eclipse, a full moon lunar eclipse in your 9th house. The 9th house is the house of long distance travel, higher education, society in general, philosophy, religion. Now, full moon eclipses usually bring endings. They bring the end of a phase, the end of a chapter. We've overgrown it, we've outgrown it, we are past it, but somehow we are still stuck in it. And the universe gives us a nudge and says, move on, move forward. So it might be the completion of a course. It might be you finally having some sort of like revelation and enlightenment moment regarding something that you used to believe in and that no longer serves you or no longer gives you the faith that it used to give you. It's also a time that you might around which you might have to like travel abroad, or you might hear news from abroad. And again, this is a month filled with news for you, but not necessarily the ones that you were expecting. Last but not least, we've got on the 23rd of July, the sun entering your 4th house, followed by Venus on the 28th. So from the 23rd of July onwards till the rest of the month, I'd say the focus for you shifts on spending time with your family, spending time at home, maybe traveling at home, and you're going to enjoy it because having Venus there, Venus is also your ruling planet, brings us a lot of pleasure. So the focus and the pleasure and the calm this month after the 23rd. So we've got like 3 weeks of madness to start with, everyone, but after the 23rd of July, you might find that things calm down a little bit, and you might find it like a breath of fresh air to spend time in the bosom of your family and in private rather than in the public life. Enjoy July, my dear Taurus. My lovely Geminis, prepare yourselves for a month of July in which you will have to spend money more than you've spent in, I don't know, maybe the past year. Let me put my glasses on because I need my glasses on for this. That's because in July, you've got 2 eclipses happening in your 2 houses that govern money in general. So let's break them down. On the 2nd of July, we've got an eclipse happening, a new moon solar eclipse happening in your 2nd house of earned income, of the money that you make through your own work. It's also your house of values and what you consider valuable and worthy. And this eclipse is actually, eclipses in general are very interesting because they bring about wild cards and they bring about circumstances beyond our control, completely and totally unpredictable. They have a way of stirring up our lives with the purpose of obviously pushing us in the right direction. However, for a very short period of time, they can rattle us quite a lot. Now, this eclipse in particular is in a very challenging aspect, in an opposition with all the planets gathered in Capricorn at the moment, in particular Pluto and Saturn. Well, if I were to be more precise, there's only Pluto and Saturn currently in Capricorn. So what does that mean? It means the following. You might be forced by external circumstances, and when I say external circumstances, I'm thinking about institutions and laws and rules and regulations to spend some of your hard-earned cash, and you were not prepared for it. You maybe did not save specifically for this, and it won't be great. So I'm thinking you might have to pay out, I don't know, like some sort of like tax that you didn't pay on time. You might have to pay out, I don't know, a divorce payment if you're getting a divorce, or if you're in the middle of a divorce process. It has to do, so the money that you will have to pay around the 2nd of July has some legal implications, be it like in the form of unpaid tax, or money that you owe to someone because it was decided in a court of law. Now, think of it as an opportunity, even though it might be quite frustrating, quite annoying. Think of it as an opportunity to start off with a clean slate, money-wise. The good news is the following. Even though you need to pay something or someone off, it does seem like you will receive an unexpected silver lining, I'd say. There is someone in the woodworks who's got your back, someone who's supporting you, someone who's going to be there for you that you did not think they would be there for you at all. You might actually run into a pot of cash that I want to say you forgot about it, but I think that's very unlikely, considering the fact that Geminis have a really good memory and they just remember everything. You might encounter some sort of like unexpected help. You might run into some unexpected cash at the same time when you need to make this like big grand payout around the 2nd of July. So don't despair. That's my advice. Now, on the 16th of July, you've got a lunar eclipse, a full moon lunar eclipse in your house of other people's money. The lunar eclipses usually bring the ending of a chapter. So whatever started out at the beginning of the month, and whatever started out towards the very beginning of the year, because we had another eclipse in Capricorn at the beginning of the year in January. Think of resources that you were forced, or you realized that you had to share around in January in general. If you received news about it, if you received I don't know, some sort of like inheritance, some sort of like insurance payout. Now it does seem like this is the closing of that particular chapter. If you do owe money to some sort of like individual or like a legal institution, the chapter is closing, the phase of your life is closing around the 16th of July, 10 days before or 10 days after, because eclipses are active very early on. So the month of July for you, my lovely Gemini, is all about money, 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 money. Also, we've got Mercury retrograde for most of the month till the 9th, from the 9th till the 30th of July. Be very careful what sort of like what sort of documents you sign, what sort of agreements you sign up for. Read the fine print, read it like 5 times if possible. Communications and any means of communication can break down unexpectedly and can have like significant delays. So it's not an easy month. And I've said this for everyone, and I'm gonna say it for you, my dear Gemini. This month that's coming up is gonna change things dramatically. For you, for everyone, for you money-wise, financially, it's a new beginning, it's a new chapter. You will feel rattled at first, but think of it as an opportunity more than anything. And that is Gemini. Let us move on to Cancer. My lovely Cancerians, my Cancerian brothers and sisters, because hey, if you're new to this channel, I am a Cancer rising as well. So what I'm gonna say also applies to me. This month, the month of July, is focused very much for us on our relationship with our committed partner, be it our life partner or a business partner. If you are in a relationship, if you are committed, if you are married, you will find that this particular month is gonna be focused more than anything or on your significant other, on the relationship that you've got with your significant other, on how your partner sees you and how they perceive you, and also ultimately how you want to relate to the world, my lovely Cancer. Do you want the world to see you as someone who is in a partnership with X or Y or Z, or do you want people to see you as you, an individual, standing on your own 2 feet and fending for themselves? This month is going to be about both. This month is very much focused on you finding your sense of identity, Cancer, and that's going to happen. Well, I'm not saying that you're gonna find you have like a completely new identity around the 2nd of July. What I'm saying is around the 2nd of July, when we've got a new moon solar eclipse in Cancer in your own sign, in your first house, you might have some sort of revelation and decide that you need to evaluate, reevaluate, rehash, rejig who you are and who you are in the eyes of other people. Now, this can happen in a multitude of ways. You can have some sort of internal revelation and it can dawn on you, oh, hold on a second, I want to be like this and I want to stop being like that. Or the alternative, and it's usually painful, when we are in denial and when we do not want to acknowledge the path that is opening up in front of us, even though it's the right path for us to take, the universe tends to give us a shove. Well, it generally gives us a nudge, but at eclipse time, it can give us a shove in the right direction, like a very steady push. Look after your body around the beginning of the month, my dear Cancer. Make sure you don't break it. Make sure you are not involved in any sort of accident. Make sure that the universe does not force you to go on a timeout, and that you take that time out for yourself to re-look at your life, re-look at who you are, re-look at your body. This is very much an eclipse that is also focused on the body. I'm not gonna say it, but maybe I am. Accidents are possible. Physical pain is also possible around this time, but it has a higher purpose. It has the purpose to strengthen us, empower us, and show us what the right path is. So if you've been treating your body poorly, if you haven't been taking care of your body might break down, my dear Cancer, around the 2nd of July. And don't allow it to force you into a timeout. Consciously act upon taking care of your body, because it's the only body you've got. It's the only vessel you've got in this lifetime. Now, around the 16th of July, the focus moves on to your partner. And what I'm seeing is the end of a chapter in your committed partnerships, in your committed relationships. Now, this can mean a variety of things, a multitude of options. Either you're moving to the next level with your partner. People might be getting married around this time, and they might be exiting a phase in their relationship and entering a new phase in their relationship. However, relationships that are feeble and that were not based on solid ground they are very likely to break around the 16th of July. So if you're not on solid ground with your partner, this might be the month when you finally break up. So just to put it out there. And last but not least, we've got Mercury in retrograde for the entire month of July. Well, from the 9th till the end of July, basically, but you can feel its effects from the very beginning of the month. In your first house, Cancer, in your own sign. You know how I was talking about the body? I'm going to talk about the body once again. You might have old wounds, old physical wounds bothering you this month, and you might realize that you need to take better care of them because you thought they were solved, but they're not. And also, it can be quite a frustrating month for you because whatever you do you are in whatever you do and whatever you say, you are in danger of being misunderstood. So don't take it personally. Take the time to explain things to people. Don't fly off the handle because they've got nothing against you. It's just Mercury messing up with our communications in general for July. And that is Cancer. Now let us talk about what Leos can expect from the month of July. Guys, what's happening? What's up? Well, July is the month that changes everything for everyone, also for you. The focus for July is going to be, for you in particular, on your 6th house, the house of day-to-day work, the house of colleagues that you work with, the house of day-to-day responsibilities. It's also the house of health and your physical well-being. But also the focus is also going to be on the 12th house, which is the house of the spiritual, the house of dreams, the house of past lives, and the house of retreat from the outside world. So let's start breaking things down for July. First and foremost, the very first eclipse taking place this month is going to be on the 2nd of July. It's a new moon solar eclipse, and it happens in it takes place in the sign of Cancer. What does that mean? So a new moon solar eclipse usually brings about a new chapter, a new beginning. It's a new phase. You are entering a new cycle. What is this cycle concerned with? Well, it's concerned with areas that have to do with you sacrificing yourself for other people, you sacrificing your well-being for other people. It also has to do with retreat, with going away, taking a break from the world and going inwards and looking inwards and really assessing what it is that you want from life, what it is that actually supports you and helps you and props you to move forward or offers you a steady ground, as opposed to what is toxic for you, people who are toxic for you, beliefs, paradigms, circumstances that are toxic to you and that no longer serve you. So I'd say the very first part of the month is about you taking a step back and looking inwards and consciously retreating from the world. Now, eclipses have a way of pushing us in the right direction when the universe is like, you know what, I've had enough. This guy is really not doing what he's meant to be doing. Then at eclipse time, the universe is like, I'll just give him a shove in the right direction. So if you don't consciously take your time to retreat from the world, to really evaluate what has meaning for you and what doesn't, to really evaluate your relationship with a higher power and with the transcendental, then you might find yourself forcingly being removed from the world and forcingly being isolated from the world. I don't know if you can see this, guys, but we've got Max like right in front of me. So he's just gonna take a break and spend some time here with us. So you might find yourself forcibly removed from your day-to-day environment. You might fall ill. You might need to spend some time in some sort of like institution. You might have to isolate yourself for whatever reason because something really bad has gone down in the outside world. Or you might feel like this very strong urge to escape. Listen to it, because you are about to make a fantastic discovery and have an enlightening moment in regards to spirituality. Now, around the 16th of July, well, the eclipse, the second eclipse of the month is happening on the 16th of July in your house of day-to-day work. This is a lunar eclipse. It's a full moon lunar eclipse, which usually brings about the ending, the closure of a chapter, the ending of a phase, the end of a cycle. It does feel like, and it will feel like, you are ready to move on from your current job or from your current work situation. You might decide to resign at this point. If you don't decide to resign, you might find yourself being made redundant. Don't resist it. The worst thing that you can do at eclipse time is to resist the wave of change that is coming. take it as an opportunity to open up a new path for you. This cycle has ended. Take it as an opportunity to look for a better paid job, a job with like better conditions, better benefits. Maybe take it as an opportunity to start off your own thing. In any case, we have the closure of a work-related chapter in July for you, my dear Leo, and it is going to impact at least the next 6 months of your life. So it's big. Now, last but not least, we also have Mercury retrograde for most of the month till the 19th of July. So I'd say the first 2 weeks of July are very much focused on you taking a decision or being forced to take a decision around your work life. And it's very possible that this is related to some sort of situation that you have been confronted with in the past, maybe like a past argument or conflict with colleagues, or maybe like a situation that you've heard about a while ago. Mercury retrograde tends to bring the past back into the present, and now it's finally coming to bite you off the ass, and you have to deal with it. You can't sweep it underneath the rug anymore. And that, my lovely Leos, is your month of July. You have better days coming in the last week of July, more pleasant days when Venus is moving into your own sign, when you finally come to terms with all the changes that have happened, and you find yourself being a lot more sociable and a lot more willing to interact with humans once again. Now, let us move on to Virgos. Virgos, what can you expect from the month of July? Well, there's one thing that I can tell you. This month is going to change the game for the rest of the year. This is the month that is going to turn things upside down, and I know that sounds awful for you because you're a Virgo and you want to have things under control, but whatever happens in July, you will not be able to control it, no matter how hard you plan for it. Now, even though it's eclipse season, I'd say that you are one of the luckiest signs, if you can call it that way, because the eclipses are happening in 2 houses that are generally quite light-hearted. Now, the 2nd of July eclipse is happening in your house of friends and friendships and groups of people that you belong to. It is also the house of objectives and higher dreams. Around the 2nd of July, you might form a new and unexpected friendship, or you might find that you no longer fit within the circle of friends that you've been a part of for a very, very long time. You tend to be like, because you're a flexible type of personality, you're a mutable sign. You tend to go with the wave and adapt with whatever comes your way. However, around the 2nd of July, you might make a decision as to extricate yourself from a group of friends that no longer present any sort of like relevance to you. You no longer relate to them. You no longer resonate with them. And also, it's very possible that, like I said, you might meet someone or like a new group of friends that you feel you resonate very strongly with, and you start asking yourself, like, it's almost like a no-brainer that you have to roll with those people as opposed to your old group of friends. Now, on the 16th of July, we've got an eclipse happening in your 5th house. This is a full moon eclipse. Full moon eclipses usually bring about endings and the closing of a chapter. This chapter for you is very much going to be related to either a romance, a romantic relationship. You might push it to the next level. You might decide to like commit to a partner, but it is also very possible that you might finally decide to end a relationship that no longer serves you. You might also find yourself between having to choose between your friends and a romantic partner, and it's going to be very uncomfortable, I'd say. You might, I'm going to put it out there, you might actually decide to choose your romantic partner as opposed to your group of friends, or you might decide to like break away from the people who don't support you in your romantic choices. So it is a very tense month. I'm not gonna I'm not even gonna pretend that it's not. For most of July, until the 19th of July, we've got Mercury retrograded in the same area of your chart. So we've got Mercury retrograding through your 11th house of friends and friendships and people from your past who you used to be friends with. You might feel an urge to reconnect with them, to rekindle that link, that lost bond. But it is going to be challenging, again, like I said, to you might reevaluate who you are outside of the group of people that you've always been a part of. And that might lead you to either rekindle relationships with friends who you may be pushed out of your life for one reason or another. Or you might need to like find a new group of friends altogether. So from a social point of view and from a love point of view, this is going to be a very interesting month, my lovely Virgos. Let me know how it goes. Now let us move on to Libra. So Libras, what can you expect from the month of July? It's gonna be a packed one, that I can tell you. So we've got 2 eclipses happening. We've got an eclipse happening in your 10th house, and we've got an eclipse happening in your 4th house. This month for you, Libra, is gonna change the game when it comes to home and career matters. That's because eclipses happen on an axis, and this axis is the Aries Cancer axis, which govern the Capricorn Cancer axis, which govern your house of home and your career sector. Now, the very first eclipse is happening on the 2nd of July in your career sector. What's going on? So you might have a new boss coming in. You might have an old boss disappearing from the picture altogether. You might not be very happy with the rules and regulations and boundaries that the new boss is trying to impose upon you. And that's because they are very likely going to interfere with the time and the energy that you are able to allocate to your home life, to your family life. So that's going to be quite challenging, and it's going to have an impact for you, my lovely Libra, for the next, at least for the next 6 months. Now, why I'm seeing it to be so tense is because we've got an opposition between the Sun and the Moon conjunct on the one hand, and on the other hand with Saturn and Pluto, which Saturn is a planet of power and Pluto is the planet, the other way around. Pluto is the planet of power and Saturn is the planet of rules, regulations, and boundaries. So I'm seeing obstacles here. It's also very possible that you might be offered some sort of promotion, some sort of step up in your workplace, and that might also have, it might interfere, and it's very likely going to interfere with the amount of time that you are able to allocate to your family. Your family might not be that supportive when it comes to this career move. So it's a very tricky one. It's a very tricky time. If I can advise you to do one thing and one thing only, it is to listen to your intuition and listen to what that voice inside your head is saying that already has the right answer, even though it's not the answer that is the most comfortable, even though it's not the easiest answer, it doesn't give you the easiest solution. Do listen to that, because that is what you should be doing in terms of evolution, in terms of personal satisfaction, and you might actually regret it if you don't listen to that voice. Now, on the 16th of July, we've got a full moon eclipse happening in your 4th house of home and family. This is the closure of a chapter. This is the ending of a chapter related to your home life. You might be moving houses at this time, and you might move away from, I don't know, your childhood home. You might actually make a decision as to whether you want to sell your house or not. You might also make a decision regarding a person that is very close to you from your family. It's also very possible at eclipse times, people tend to be eclipsed out of our lives. So someone who was very close to you, someone in your family might make an exit. They might move away. They might not be so present in your life. And it's going to be very emotionally draining. But there's nothing you can do about it. So my advice at eclipse time is always to go with the flow and take it all in and accept what's coming your way. Not to mention the fact that for most of the month, we've got Mercury retrograde in your house of career. You might have to deal with situations, clients, bosses that you thought you had already dealt with, but the past is gonna come to bite us off the ass, and there's no point trying to avoid and escape this and talk our way out of it. We're just gonna have to tackle situations head on. And that, my dear Libra, is your very full, very busy, and very challenging month of July. My dear Scorpios, what does July have in store for you? Well, first and foremost, it's got 2 eclipses in store for you. So this is gonna be the month that changes things for the rest of the year, because eclipses tend to have an impact upon the next 6 months. And for you, my dear Scorpio, the focus is going to be on education and traveling. So I'd say you are gonna do pretty well in terms of how you deal with these things, and there's certainly more challenging areas in your natal chart where the eclipses could have fallen. So these are some of the 2 easy houses, I would say. However, you might feel a lot of pressure in regards to educational matters in the month of July, and also when it comes to traveling in general. Now, let's start breaking things down. On the 2nd of July, we've got a solar eclipse happening in your 9th house in Cancer. What does that mean? The solar eclipses are usually the messengers of a new beginning, of a new chapter, of an opportunity coming up. Now, opportunity is a keyword here, and it might come disguised under, I don't know, the guise of hard work, or something that is not necessarily super relevant to you, or something that can seem quite hard to achieve, quite hard to attain. The 9th house has to do with higher education, so you might be offered a chance to learn or embark upon a new course. You might also be offered, or you might hear news regarding some sort of like educational academic institution that you've applied for. So maybe you were accepted, maybe you were rejected, let's see. I can't tell you. You might be accepted. You might actually find out news of your acceptance, but you might also find that you need to put some more work into it, or maybe there's like more documents to gather, or maybe there's like some additional tests for you to take. In any case, there's a new door opening for you when it comes to education and mental evolution, philosophical evolution. So I say, even though it does seem hard at a first glance, I say do go through that door. So be very attentive, pay a lot of attention to what sort of news you hear around the 2nd of July, 10 days before or 10 days after, because the eclipse is already active at that time. Now, on the 16th of July, we've got a lunar eclipse happening in your 3rd house of communication and siblings. Lunar eclipses tend to bring with them the closure of a chapter. So if you've been learning a new skill for the past, I don't know, year or so, you might actually find yourself around the 16th of July being a confident a confident user of that skill, and you might decide that, you know what, it's actually time that I actually implement all of the stuff that I've learned in the past year or so. It also looks like you are receiving some interesting inspiration, some beautiful inspiration around the full moon time, around the 16th of July. From Neptune. Neptune is actually in a beautiful aspect, in a trine with Venus transiting Cancer, which is your 3rd house. You might you might have an idea as to how you can use the skills that you've gained and the skills that you've learned for and worked hard for in the past year or so in a very creative way. Listen to that fleeting bout of inspiration, to that fleeting idea, to that fleeting insight, and jump on it. Because at eclipses time, it's as if we receive messages from like a higher, oh my God, I'm gonna break something. It's as if we receive messages from a higher dimension. So pay attention to what those messages are. You might also receive some piece of news regarding a sibling, a brother, a sister. And last but not least, be very careful this month. Whatever it is that you sign, wherever it is that you travel, especially short-term travel, is very likely going to be impacted by Mercury in retrograde. Even long-term travel, or like long-distance travel, not long-term. Short distance, long distance, this month, Mercury is retrograde, and it does have a direct impact upon transportation and traveling. Double check your travel schedule. Double check the fact that you've taken your passport with you. Double check whether you've got enough fuel in the tank, because during Mercury retrograde, we might be taken by surprise by things that we usually deal with quite casually, and we don't have to really think about them that much. So that is Scorpio for July. Now let us move on to Sagittarius. My lovely Sagittarians. Oh my gosh, I don't think you're gonna like this month that much. I have to let you know from the very beginning, from the offset. This month we've got 2 eclipses, and they both fall in your money houses. Now, I want to warn you, be prepared financially for unexpected expenditures. First and foremost, let's start dissecting the month of July. On the 2nd of July, we've got a solar eclipse in the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of other people's money. Solar eclipses are the ones that bring about new beginnings. Now, it's very possible that around the 2nd of July, you might receive some sort of like financial help or investment that you've applied for in the past. It's also very possible that if you don't receive like an investment or a lump sum of money from someone, that you might receive some sort of gift. It does come with strings attached. Let me tell you this. It will feel like for the next 6 months, you are going to have to work very, very hard to prove yourself worthy of the gift or the money that's been handed to you that comes from other people. Now, on the 16th of July, we've got a full moon lunar eclipse happening in your 2nd house. This is the house of the money that you earn through your own work. Lunar eclipses bring about endings and the closing of a chapter. It might feel like a source of income that was like reliable, always there for you, has dried up around the 16th of July. So you might hear news about that. It could have something to do with some sort of like political or legal changes. In any case, there's not too much you can do. It does feel like there's an authority intervening and basically taking that source of or like putting a stop to that flow of money in your specific direction. You might also hear news that, I don't know, maybe you applied for a promotion, or maybe you requested an increase in salary. You might hear that it was rejected and that's the end of it and it's all shut and closed. Now, don't see it as a tragedy, and I'm sure you won't, because you with your legendary optimism, I'm sure you're going to see the bright side in it. Do look at the bright side in it, and also don't try to fight it. If you try to fight it, you're only wasting your time, because eclipses bring about elements and factors and circumstances that we are not meant to fight. We are meant to work with them. So try to work with it. Now, if this source of income is dry, now what other possibilities do you have to make money? This is the perfect time for you to think about this. Now, last but not least, on the 23rd of July, we've got the Sun entering your 9th house, and after that, on the 28th of July, we've got Venus entering your 9th house. What does that mean? Well, I've got good news. So even though the first 3 weeks of July are very challenging, and especially on a material, on a financial level for you, my dear Sagittarius, and you might be quite downcast, the last week of July is beautiful and brilliant because you've got the Sun and Venus entering into your house of long distance travel. So if you can go away on holiday, this is the time to do it. The 9th house is also the house of society and going out, and I advise you to spend time with your friends and surrounded by people after the 23rd of July. You might find yourself being quite in the limelight and quite liked and loved and validated by the people around you, and it's going to be a nice boost to your ego. But all in all, a very interesting month you've got ahead, my dear Sagittarius. Save those pennies, save that cash. Don't spend more than you can afford, because you might regret it for the next 6 months. Just to put it out there. My dear Capricorns, what a month you've got ahead of you. Without further ado, let us begin talking about the unexpected that is awaiting right by the corner this month. So, first and foremost, we've got 2 eclipses happening in the month of July, and these fall on your relationship axis. So, we've got on the 2nd of July an eclipse falling in your 7th house of marriage and committed partnerships and committed relationships. And on the 16th of July, we've got an eclipse falling in your 1st house and directly opposing all the planets in your house of marriage and committed relationships. So it is a month filled with compromises. It is a month that is likely going to bring about endings. It's very likely going to have an impact upon relationships that are not very stable, that are not very steady, that are not based on solid ground. The 2nd of July eclipse happening in your 7th house of marriage and committed partnerships and relationships is actually a new moon solar eclipse. Now, new moon solar eclipses are indicative of new beginnings, are indicative of a new chapter being opened in front of us. As much as that is true, we've also got the eclipse directly opposing Saturn and Pluto in your 1st house. So whatever new beginning is coming up for you in your committed relationship sector, it will feel like you have to break a part of yourself in order to take that particular route that is laid in front of you. It might hurt you to do this, but you will have to say yes to whatever new phase and whatever new chapter your committed partner wants you to embark upon. It's like you don't really have a choice. As much as it pains you, as much as you want to fight it, it is what it is. And my advice is to stop fighting with it and start thinking about ways in which you can adapt to whatever is coming your way. Eclipses can also eclipse people out of our lives, so it's very possible that someone who you thought of as a business partner and who might have been a business partner for a long time, they decide to make an exit out of the partnership, and you will have to scramble to find a new partner, someone that you can work with in the long run. Last but not least, we are entering a phase of new beginnings when it comes to marriage. If you are in a relationship, you might decide it's finally time to get engaged. Or you might receive an ultimatum from your partner saying, if we don't get engaged now, or if we don't move on to the next step, then I'm out of here. So it's very, very serious. And last but not least, yes, it's also very possible that you might hear some sort of news related to your partner that prompts you to move on to the next phase, whatever that phase is. The end of the relationship, possibly. Moving in with a partner, also very possible. Now, on the 16th of July, we've got an eclipse in your 1st house. What does that mean? So you might feel completely drained and utterly exhausted by the events that have unfolded in July, but also throughout the entire year. And I don't want to scare you off, but if you don't take time to rest, if you don't take time to unwind, your body might break down, and it might break down in very ugly ways. I don't know, like broken bones and stuff like that, like accidents. Like I said, I do not want to scare you, but I also want to flag up to you the fact that you need to take care of your body, to look after it, and to give it time to recharge. As much as you'd like to bury yourself in work, and that's probably something that you have done, as much as you feel like you want to escape from what's happening at the moment in your life, and I have to give it to you, Capricorns, you've been having a really hard time for a long time now, with Saturn in your house, with Pluto in your corner. Saturn is getting out of there at the end of 2020, so you've still got some time with Saturn there. The pressure is on. Pluto is getting out of there at the end of 2023, and you're going to be able to say that you went through the hardest 11 years of your life. It's only getting easier from that point onwards. But yes, do look after your health and do look after your body, because otherwise you're going to be in for some very ugly piece of news around the 16th of July. Now, last but not least, on the 23rd of July, the Sun enters your 8th house, and on the 28th, Venus enters your 8th house. This is the perfect time to try to understand why people do things the way they do. It's also the perfect time for you to go to therapy and go see a psychologist. Go see a therapist, because they might help you process all the things that you've gone through. And don't say, yeah, I don't have time, I have to work, I've got better things to do. Your mental health is very important, because otherwise you might go through serious mental breakdowns later down the line. So I know I've been super dramatic about what's up next for you, Capricorns, but you probably know better than I do all the things that you've had to deal with, and they have not been easy at all. The last couple of years and the next couple of years to come are not easy, so you have to shift your mindset. Go see a therapist, go talk to someone who understands you. Hell, go see an astrologer. I mean, you can always come to me and we can get to the bottom of things. So that is your month of July, Capricorns. My lovely Aquarius brothers and sisters. For those of you who are new to my channel, I am an Aquarius sun as well. So what I'm going to be telling you now also applies to me. Oh no. So what can we expect from the month of July? I've told everyone, I'm going to repeat it for you guys because I assume you're only going to be listening to your sign. July is going to change things dramatically for all of us. For Aquarians in particular, the focus is going to be on work-related matters and health-related matters. Now, let's start breaking things down. First and foremost, we've got Mercury going retrograde for most of the month in Cancer, which is our 6th house, and from the 19th of July onwards in Leo, which is our 7th house of partnerships and committed relationships. For the first 2.5 weeks, I'd say, of July, you're probably going to have to deal with a lot of shizzle at work, with a lot of challenges at work that have to do with past projects, with things that you thought were wrapped up, with past clients, requests that come up from the shadows, and it's not going to be the easiest, it's not going to be the prettiest. I have to say, you might also have communication challenges with your work colleagues, so please be sure to over communicate if possible, and don't take it personally if they don't understand what it is that you're trying to tell to them, and double, triple, quadruple check that they've actually got your message. Check your inbox, check your outbox, check all of these things, because Mercury retrograde is the god of communications gone south. From the 19th of July onwards, we've got Mercury retrograde in your 7th house of partnerships and committed relationships. There can be communication challenges related to your day-to-day interactions with your partner or spouse. my advice is don't take them to heart and don't take them personally, and try to hash things out. It's also a fantastic time for you to discuss about problems or situations that have bugged you in the past, but maybe you thought were not worth discussing. Then they might resurface, and it's actually a good opportunity to make sure that everyone is on the same page and take the chance to be honest about how you really feel about things. Now, we've also got 2 eclipses in July. Let's not forget about those. On the 2nd of July, we've got an eclipse in our 6th house of day-to-day work and day-to-day responsibilities and our health and well-being. Now, what does that mean? It can mean a new beginning work-wise. It can mean that your responsibilities at work are going to change. They will take you by surprise. I'm not going to lie to you. It can also mean that someone in your workplace might leave, like a colleague that you probably got along very well with, because at eclipse times, people tend to be eclipsed out of our lives. You might hear about news regarding new rules, new regulations, new laws at work that you have to abide by. And as Aquarians, we all know we're not that big fan of rules, are we? Unless we institute them. So there's that to put on your radar. If you've applied for a job, you might finally hear news about whether you've been accepted or rejected. If you have been accepted, then it will come with a significant amount of hard work that you have to put in order to perform as well as you're expected. And this is probably going to take the next 6 months of your life. So you are likely going to get you might receive really good news related to a job, but if you do, then be prepared to work really hard in order to prove yourself for the next 6 months. Now, on the 16th of July, we've got an eclipse happening in our 12th house of retreat, of dreams, of our connection with higher realms and a higher power. It's also the house of institutions. It's a house of hospitals and libraries and secluded places. Now, as Aquarians, we generally are quite spiritual and quite open-minded when it comes to alternative ways of thinking, alternative philosophies, alternative religions, and alternative ways of looking at the universe and perceiving the universe. So around the 16th of July, you might make some sort of you might have some sort of revelation and some sort of discovery in regards to the things that you believe in. If that's not the case, then you might find yourself needing somehow to retreat from the world and spend time on your own. You might be forced to do that. You might be ill or sick around that time. It's probably nothing major, but it is a way of keeping yourself. It's a way for the universe to keep yourself out of interacting too much with other people and spending time thinking about the things that actually matter to you. So take that time to use it constructively. Now, on the 23rd of July, we've got the sun entering your 7th house and my 7th house as well. And on the 28th of July, we've got Venus entering the 7th house. The 7th house is governed by Leo for us. And having the sun and Venus there in the last week of July is going to shift the focus and the limelight dramatically towards your partner and your significant other. It's a fantastic time for you to go away with a significant other, and you might find yourself in a very romantic mood and your partner is going to love it, or your partner might romantically surprise you. I'd say enjoy the last week of July because it's going to be a lot more lighthearted and easy to go through. Take your time to go on vacation, take your time to spend quality time with your partner and really strengthen that relationship, really strengthen that bond, because the first 3 weeks of July, my lovely Aquarius, are gonna be tough. You heard it here first. Now, let us move on to Pisces. My lovely Pisces, what can you expect from the month of July? Well, it's a tricky month for everyone. It's filled with endings and new beginnings and new chapters and wild goose chases and wild cards and black swans, like I love to call them, but black swans on a very like low scale level, on an individual level. The focus this month for you, my lovely Pisces, is going to be on your house of love and creativity, and also on your house of friends and goals and objectives. Now, on the 2nd of July, we've got an eclipse happening in your 5th house of love and romantic relationships. Around the 2nd of July, if you are single, you might meet someone who like enters your life out of nowhere, out of the blue. They probably are not at all like the ideal type of romantic partner you'd go for generally, but they are going to pounce on your time and your energy, and it's as if you can't escape them, you can't avoid them. This person is going to take you completely by surprise. They might not be someone that your friends really like seeing you in the presence of. They might not be someone that your family really agrees to. It's also very possible that they are someone from your past and that make like a dramatic entrance into your life once again and play to that melancholic, nostalgic side of yours. And it's like you can't fight it. You can't fight the attraction. You can't fight the chemistry. If you are coupled up, then you might again find yourself having to deal with an ex coming out of the woodworks and trying to get involved with you romantically once more. Your friends are going to be 100% against it. My advice is do not jeopardize something that is not worth jeopardizing for a new person. It's also very possible that if you are in a relationship, your partner might surprise you with some sort of like out of nowhere requests, such as like traveling the world with them or moving away with them. Their request might have a significant impact upon your lifestyle. Hence why people around you are going to be like, hell no, why would you do that for that person? That's just crazy. My advice is, as per usual, you're a Pisces. Your intuition is bulletproof. Listen to it and do not try to fool yourself. If your intuition is saying something, don't try to make it say something just because you want it to say a different thing. Listen to that inner voice because it's as accurate as it gets. Now, on the 16th of July, we've got an eclipse happening in your 11th house of friendships and friends and goals and ideals. It might feel like you finally closed a chapter related to a specific dream that you've been chasing for a very, very long time. It's like a culmination of an objective that you've had, and it's finally all coming together, and now it's time to move on to something new. Saying goodbye to that goal and to that dream of yours can be a bittersweet moment, but my advice is do run with the flow of change and don't try to hold on to the past because it no longer serves you. Around the 16th of July, you might also have a friend exiting your life and maybe moving abroad or moving away, or like you finally deciding to remove someone like a toxic relationship out of your life because the benefits and the good energy that they bring into your life are outweighed by the bad energy and the bad vibes that they bring into your life. And last but not least, on the 23rd of July, we've got the sun entering your 6th house of day-to-day work and day-to-day duties and responsibilities. So as much as like the first 3 weeks of July are focused on love, relationships, and friendships, from the 23rd of July onwards, the focus shifts to your day-to-day job and also to your daily routine in regards to your body and health and well-being. It's a fantastic time from the 23rd of July onwards to take up a new regime, a new wellness regime. It's a fantastic time to go out more in nature and, I don't know, go for a jog, go for a run, do some like light workout outside, because it's really going to make you feel more empowered. It's really going to give you that boost of energy that you need, because July, for in general, overall, is a very emotionally draining month. So watch out for that. And find ways to ground yourself, be it, like I said, through working out, be it through spending time outdoors. It will bring balance to an emotionally fragile state that you might find yourself in. So my lovelies, I'm hoping you've enjoyed your July horoscopes. If you've got any other questions, please feel free to reach out. And don't forget, if you want a personalized horoscope, or if you want to know what your natal chart says about you, please feel free to get in touch, because I offer all of these services. So have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next time. Bye.